And welcome back. This is Power Breakfast on Citizen TV, seeing as it's the start of a brand new week. Time for us to tackle some brand new issues when it comes to inspiration and personal development. We've got the expert back in the house, Dr. Wale Akinyemi. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So this morning we're going to be talking about tackling your personal insecurity.
Yes.
So, you know, first of all, I think it's important to identify one's insecurities. How is it that someone, you know, would go about that process of trying to figure out what their insecurities are? I think
when we try to define what an insecurity is, it's a feeling of being exposed. And they come in different ways. You could have academic insecurities, for instance. Maybe maybe you dropped out of school at some time, and then later on you find yourself in the midst of people who have multiple degrees and whatever. If care is not taken, that can produce a feeling of insecurity. It could be financial, you know, that you find yourself in a place where you appear to be not financially the way you want to be. You know, it could produce insecurities. It could be social. You know, I remember when I was younger, when I was in school, a lot of my friends, my colleagues in school, during the holidays would go to England, would go to America, and my father, being the strict conservative person he was, would send me off to the village to be with my grandmother. You know, I would go to our, you know, our little, and I was with my grandmother, and when we go back to school, everybody is coming with designer clothes and all that, and we had a family tailor who made clothes that, you know, I don't think he liked me. So, because everything he made was either too big or too small, or, you know, funny stuff. So, you find out that could create some form of social insecurity, all right? And you can be secure in one area and insecure in another area. So it's not like everybody has all-round insecurities and all that. And so it's important for people to identify what areas, you know, they're insecure. And one of the things that happens is when we are insecure in an area, we try to do a lot of things to cover up. You know, and even when we talk of social, when I talk of social insecurity, you can understand it by thinking of the U.S. expression social security. You know, that means there is a system that will protect you socially, you know, because it's a big thing. And so when we look at the causes, why do we get to that kind of place? Is anything that makes me feel exposed in any of those areas that we talked about.
Yeah, and also I guess you can also talk about insecurities in relationships.
Yes.
That's also something that happens quite commonly. But talking about where all this stems from, right? We think maybe my childhood, maybe, you know, being compared with people. Maybe we can talk about some of the areas where insecurity actually stems from.
It could come from different things. It could come from a perception of what people think about you. For instance, my mom, let me give you that. My mom was deaf in one ear. And somehow she thought everybody knew that. But people didn't know. But that perception that everybody must know I am this way, it produced some form of insecurity. You know, like I give an example, failure,
right,
can produce insecurities. And let me tell you my story. When I failed big time, you know, one day I realized, and this is a very interesting thing, anytime I found myself in that place where I'm meeting people, talking to people, I found out that I was talking more about my past. I was talking about when I was successful. You know? So all my conversations were, you know, I used to do this, I used to do this, and then one day I had an aha moment that, wait a minute, if I'm talking more about the past than the present, it means I'm not doing much today. You know?
Yeah.
And that was a wake-up call for me. But you see, a lot of people are there, even in relationships. You find out that you talk to somebody, sometimes what comes out like arrogance is actually an expression of insecurity. You know?
So it's that, again, that covering up.
It's wanting to cover up and wanting to make myself look good. I want to cover the places where I think I've been exposed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so in relationships, for instance, you find out that maybe you have a situation where, and this happens, and it's a big issue. You have a situation where maybe the wife is earning more than the husband. If he is not a secure person, that alone can produce insecurities. And a lot of cases where I've dealt with, you find out that when you dig and dig and dig and deep into cases where sometimes the man has been very abusive, you know, it's not that he wanted to be abusive, it's that this woman, this is the only way he knew how to be the man.
Right.
Is to be macho and
right, feel dominant.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was actually an expression of insecurity.
Very interesting. And of course, you know, dealing with it, or lack of dealing with insecurities, manifests in our day-to-day life.
Yes.
We can talk about how it affects, you know, like we've talked about relationships, your decision-making, creativity.
Yes.
I mean, it really manifests, you know, quite a bit in our day-to-day lives, and we can talk about that.
Yes, it does, and I think it's important for us to look inwards and see areas where, like I said, I found out I was talking more about my past. Sometimes, you know, we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like.
True.
It's a function of insecurity that I want to show them that I am also. You know, I've seen cases where maybe we're having a conversation and maybe somebody says, oh, Joy has done this, she's really cool in this. And then somebody else is there, you didn't ask him anything, and he just goes on and on about how he has also done this, he has also done that, you know. Nobody asked him. You know, but these insecurities, that's how they manifest. These insecurities manifest sometimes. So it's good for us to look at ourselves and be very honest with ourselves. Have an honest conversation with yourself. You know, what areas do I feel exposed? All right, and then I ask myself, is that feeling, is it real or is it perceived? You know, because when you think, oh, people are thinking this about me. You know, I always say, a lot of people who get upset that people are talking about them, if you know how little people talk about you, you actually get upset.
And that's the thing. Everyone is living their own life.
Everybody's got their own issues to talk about, to deal with.
Yeah.
You know? And so the key to dealing with insecurities is living your life from the inside out and not from the outside in. What do I mean by that? When our life is driven by the perceptions of others, then we will do all we can to satisfy those perceptions or expectations. I remember I asked somebody the other day and said, I said, if you failed, if you were going to embark on something and you were assured 100% that if it failed, nobody will hear about it.
Right. So
will that change things? And everybody said yes. So that means the fear is not the fear of failure. It is the fear of what people would say.
Right.
And that has held so many people back. Just that fear of being exposed to criticism, being exposed to ridicule. But you see, when you live your life from the inside in, you know, people will almost think you are too carefree. Because some of us, you know, absolutely don't care what people say. You know, the truth is, before I came here, I liked myself. You know, when I live here, I will like myself. It's regardless of what anybody says.
Right, right.
You know,
it's a good way to think about it.
So that way, I will do things, and one of the things that has done for me, I've been able to plug my insecurities by living from the inside out. My identity does not come from what someone comments on Facebook.
Right.
My identity does not come from there. I know who I am. You know, so I think it's very important for people to plug those insecurities by understanding that their self-worth must come from inside.
Yeah. You know, we were talking about being exposed and how it is that some different people handle that by overcompensating. There are also people who are, what would you say, perpetual liars, and they just can't seem to help how much they lie. Where does that come from, and is that also covering up?
That's a demon, the lying spirit. but on a serious note, many times it's also a function of insecurity. You know, you want to be accepted, and so you will exaggerate yourself. You will say things because you want to be accepted. You know, and that is a form of social insecurity, and that's what will cause people to do stuff like that. One of the things that I do, and I'm sure you know very well, I talk about my failures openly. I talk about my failures publicly because I'm not defined by my failures. You know. And because I'm not defined by my failures, I don't have to tell lies about who I am. You know, I think one thing that people need to do more, people need to learn how to laugh at themselves more.
Absolutely, I agree. 100%. I do that all the time.
You know, because, you know, and I've always believed that if you look back in your life and you don't have reasons to laugh at yourself, then you've not changed much.
Yeah.
You've not changed. And there are things that I did last year that today I look back and I think they were dumb. Absolutely dumb. And I laugh at myself. And I move on.
Right.
You know? Now, the beauty of laughing at yourself is that it removes the sting from people laughing at you.
You get there first.
You get there. Thank you. You get there first. So there's nothing you want to laugh at me today. You laugh at, oh, he speaks with a Niger accent, or he's this, he's that. You see, anything you want to laugh about, I have probably already laughed at it myself, about it myself. You know, my wife was talking the other day. She said, when Wale gets excited, that's when he said when he starts, he's speaking, you know, proper English. But when he gets excited, then the Niger accent comes out very, very heavy. You know, now I will laugh at it myself. You know, so I think people need to have sessions where they just laugh at themselves.
Lighten up the mood.
Yeah, just laugh at yourself.
In addition to that, maybe just as we wind up here, you can talk about you know, maybe it's about adjusting our perspective, about positive self-talk, just other ways that we can deal with our insecurities once we've identified them.
Like I said, we have a big problem, and that problem is compounded by the age we live in on social media, where somebody can go into a depression because you posted something and people did not like it.
Yeah.
You know, and that is why I think the cure to this is understanding that my worth does not come from what anybody says about me. My worth does not come from being accepted or rejected by people. My worth comes from the fact that I know who God made me to be. I know who I am. I know that I am not an accident. I do not believe in illegitimate children. There is no illegitimate child. There are illegitimate parents. But every child was born for a purpose. You know, I know that like I know my name. I am a child of destiny. I was born to do great things, regardless of what anybody thinks about me. And you see, I have so affirmed myself. I have so seen affirmation from God's word about my life and all that. So because of that, it is absolutely irrelevant, you know. And I think it is important. You cannot get to that point where I have gotten to if you do not start the process. Accept yourself. Nobody, look, if you have not accepted yourself,
no one else can
accept. No one, in fact, nobody should accept you. Why should we accept something you have not accepted? So you accept yourself. You know, I remember when I was young, and this really helped me. I was schooling in England, and there was this white boy who looked at me one day and said that I had a big head, and said he called me a Pakistani bee. So I went home and I was crying. I was a little kid, I was crying. So my mother said, are you a Pakistani? I didn't know what a Pakistani was. You know, are you a bee? And then you know what my mother did? She said, so Paz, why are you behaving Paz in a manner likely to suggest you are telling the truth? My mother's favorite verse in the Bible. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. Beats the child, he shall not die. She said, you go back there, and when they laugh at your big head, tell them that head is full of brains. From a little kid. Yeah. So, you know, from that moment, I celebrated my big head, that it was full of brains. And I would tell myself, it is full of brains. You see, I accepted myself. Yeah. You know, and I think that's very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a great note to end on. Accepting yourself, your big or small head. No.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wale. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and get inspired. I hope that you have learned a thing or two. Of course, Power Breakfast continues. Willis Raburu is going to be talking Taekwondo in just a short while, but before that, some music from Carlos Kiba and the band.